Okay, what do you want to know, Frank?
Well, I'm here at the Vintage Fashion Show, and I'm talking to, what is your name, young lady?
Pamela Hyman.
Pamela Hyman. Now, I was wondering, were you an attendee of my conference, or did you speak at my conference?
I spoke at your conference.
And what did you talk on?
I talked on hats.
On hats? Who? Let me get some establishing shots here. Who could have seen that coming here?
And Ted Theodopoulos also. I think he was talking on vintage clothing at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what can you tell me about some of the vintage hats that you have here? Because you have got quite a stellar collection of them.
Well, I've got hats dating back to the Victorian bonnets.
To the Victorian bonnets.
Yeah.
Now, what were these made out of?
Oh, there's a wide variety. They've got a
well,
steel...
what about this one in particular?
Okay, it's got a steel base.
Uh-huh.
And then it's got a straw frame over the base. Then it's got flowers.
Can I see that base again?
Sure.
Because my readers, they want to know about bases, especially
Okay.
Victorian style ones. Okay.
Okay. Same with this one. It's got a steel frame and then it's covered in...
Now, was steel frame something associated in the Victorian era? They discontinued, or did that continue right till today?
Well, we don't wear too many metal framed ones.
No, why is that?
Except for you'll find maybe a rim of a brim that'll have
Why did
steel wire.
why did they discontinue the great tradition of
Why did they just discontinue hats, period, except
Oh.
for baseball caps?
Well, some of us do not believe in the discontinuation of the hat era.
I
Okay,
agree.
so why don't you tell me about another stellar hat that you have here?
Okay. Here's one again with a metal base.
With the metal face.
Yeah, metal frame.
Okay, good.
Okay, then it's got horsehair.
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 Why horsehair?
Oh,
Isn't that rough and unpleasant?
Because they could weave it beautifully.
What are the properties of horsehair that allows them to weave it beautifully? It sounds like
I'm not a weaver.
you're not a weaver.
I'm not a weaver. Then you've
Okay.
got your sequins.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, they could.
So
they could
sequins,
weave
how
it.
far back do sequins go?
That's a good question.
Oh, that means I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Well, why don't you show me, how much would you want for this hat here?
175.
175.
It's referred to as a bucket. You can kind of understand.
This hat is a bucket.
It's a bucket.
Okay, has the look.
It does have the look of a bucket.
Okay, so why don't you show me one more hat here?
Oh.
Here, Pammy. I got a piece of good.
Ah, thanks,
Thank you,
Dad.
Dan. Okay.
One more hat.
Yes,
what
one
would
more.
You like?
Well, I don't know. You choose what you consider something representative of the Great Hat Era.
Great hat era.
Yeah, the Great Hat Era. When if you didn't have a hat, you were uncivilized and uncouth. I still think of that.
This comes from the last great decade of hats.
This was from the last great decades of hats.
Right.
And how would you describe this hat?
I would call it a straw toque. T-O-Q-U-E. Toque.
This is a straw toque.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, what does a toque mean?
It means a hat that sits on top of the head.
Okay, so it's a hat that sits on top of the head.
And it'll sit high. It'll remind you of
Your station
the
in
guards at Buckingham Palace. And then
Okay.
it sits tall on the head.
And so-
then it's trimmed with flowers and ribbon.
And how much would you want for this hat? The high toque hat?
58.
$58. They can have that. And
This would make a great church hat for somebody going to church in the 60s, right before the
is the 60s when the hat era came to an end?
pretty much so.
Well, that was a very sad
Yeah,
time for a lot of
yeah.
us.
Yeah,
I was trying to keep the Vietnam War going, and
the
I was-
Catholics decided that they didn't have to have hats in church. Women didn't
well,
have
that's
to
a
wear
sh-
those hats anymore.
gee, we got rid of hats. So I was wondering. So you mentioned that toque is a kind of hat. So that makes me think,
It's a
what
style.
are some of the other styles that come to mind? How about pillbox? Is that a
Well,
kind of hat?
Yeah.
Was there a celebrity associated with that?
Well, yes.
Who?
Yes, Jackie O. Except
Ja-
this would not be one Jackie would have worn.
Oh, Jackie would have never worn
worn-
that. You know, you know how she is.
Let me find it. She may have sold it. I'm looking. It's a larger style. She would have worn this one, for example.
Well, of course, that.
Okay.
I
It's a
was
little
gonna,
bigger,
I was gonna
but
point that out to you.
The main reason she would have worn this style hat is that it sat back on the head,
Uh-huh.
and she had all this hair.
She had a lot of hair.
She had a lot of hair, and so she wore her pillboxes back on her head so that all her hair would show off.
Oh, she wanted to show
She
off her
wanted
hair.
to show off
yeah,
her hair.
she was quite the show off.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when I think of her, I think of big hair.
Exactly. So
Plus the assassination, big hair and the assassination, the two kind of go together.
see, this one's tiny. It'd be more an Audrey Hepburn.
Yes,
hat than a
that's. I was gonna say that. So now, what is your name, young lady?
Pamela Hyman.
And where are you from?
Big Bear.
Big Bear. Do you have a name of a business?
Pamela Hyman Vintage Millinery.
And you have a website or some way that people
I
could contact you?
I do.
And what is it?
Pamela Hyman. Well, it's Pamela Vintage Millinery.
PamelaVintageMillinary.com.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have got it nailed.
Sounds good.